Hello students, welcome to today's class. In this lecture video, we are going to discuss about the Factories Act 1948. Now let us see the lecture objectives. To understand the salient features of this Factories Act 1948, at the end of the class, you will be able to interpret the Factories Act 1948 and why it has been established, what is the purpose of it, and then finally how it has been beneficial for the entire the industrial community can be able to interpret. Now, let's see the introduction to this particular topic. So, there has been a rise of a large-scale factory or industry in India in the later half of 19th century. So, after the 19th century means after 1950. So, mostly the large-scale industry or factories have been started rising. Major Muri, who is the inspector in charge of Bombay Cotton Department, and in his report 1872 and 73, the first of all raised the question for provision of legislation to regulate the working conditions in factories. So that is the first voice for raising the working conditions about the factories have been discussed. And after that, the Factories Act was enacted in the year 1881. Since then, there have been many amendments to this particular act, and for the fine-tuning and for the betterment of the different workers who are working in the factories. And this particular act, the 1881 Factories Act, has been made a base for all these provisions and modifications, and finally helped the different people. And the Factories Act 1948 is the main act that has been consolidated and consolidating and amending the law relating to the labor factories, and was passed by the Constituency Assembly on August 28th, 1948. So after this August 28th, 1948, so this act was passed in the Assembly Constituent, and finally this act is made enacted by Indian government and practiced. Now let's see the objective of Factories Act. So what is the main objective of Factories Act? The first objective is related to working hours. How many working hours that basically a worker needs to work and not more than that. So according to this particular provision, the adults who are working in the factories have been given a minimum, the maximum amount of hours to be spent in the factories. No adult worker should be required to be allowed for the work in the factory more than 48 hours in a week. So, as per this particular act, under the working hours provision, the adult employees or workers should not work more than 48 hours in a week. And there should be a weekly holiday. So, stipulated this working hours, so this weekly holiday also proposed and included in this working hours act. And the second objective of this particular act is the health. For protecting the health of the workers, this act is included, and that has laid down every factory which is supposed to be kept clean and neat in condition, and necessary precautions also must be taken, and for the safety, for the health of the employees, like lighting that is required at the workplace, adequate lighting, and drainage system that is required, ventilation that is supposed to be provided, and temperature to be provided. So all these that are required to be maintained in the factories as a part of health of the employees, workers, have been also maintained, also made one of the provision in this particular, one of the objective of this particular Factories Act. And the second or third objective is the safety of the workers. So the worker safety also to be maintained. For this purpose, the act has mandated the companies to maintain some of the, in case if the fencing is required, they are supposed to maintain fencing, and then young persons especially when they are working in the factories, no young person should not work in the place there is a chances of the damage or hazardous things like the chances of injuries, chances of accidents, if they are more. In that particular place, no young person must be allowed to work. And also the machinery, dangerous machines which are supposed to be maintained at the workplace. So in those places, the youngsters must not be allowed as per this particular act. And also the welfare. So as per this act, one of the another objective is employee welfare or the worker welfare. So for the welfare of the workers, the act provides in that every factory must maintain adequate and suitable facilities for washing should be provided and maintained for use of the workers. So for their washing purpose, they are supposed to maintain these facilities as per the welfare of the workers. And fifth objective of this particular act is, in case if any factory or any company that violates these regulations or these guidelines must be punished accordingly. So firstly, there are different way of punishing the factories. The first way is the imprisonment for a term which may be extended to 1 year. So if any one a person who is responsible for the factory is violating this particular act, so must be imprisoned for about at least 1 year, and maybe extended to at least 1 year. And then if it is a fine, then the fine must be imposed to the companies, which may be extended to up to even 1 lakh rupees. And sometimes both fine and imprisonment also may be laid upon based on the severity of the particular incident. So these are the different objectives of Companies Act 1948. Now let us see the importance of Factories Act. Why is this 1948 Factories Act is important? What for this particular act has been enacted? The 1948 Factories Act is a beneficial legislation certainly, because the aim and object of this particular act is essentially to safeguard the interests of workers and stop the exploitation and take care of their safety, hygiene and welfare at workplaces or at places of work. See, even in newspapers, if you look at even the present today scenario also, and there are many accidents are going on in the factories. Recently, if you take the Visakhapatnam, so with the steel plant, there are some accidents that happened, and also there are many incidents which are happened in and around Visakhapatnam due to lack of safety measures that are being taken by the factories. These incidents are going to happen. So that's why to stop these kind of incidents and to control these kind of incidents, so there must be a kind of act like this Factories Act is important for safeguarding the employees' interests and also to stop this kind of exploitation. So sometimes factories also might exploit the employees, workers. So they may ask the workers to work beyond the working hours, so they don't pay extra pay. So this way there are chances to exploit the workers. So this fact has laid down a very clear-cut guidelines for the such kind of people, fraudsters, kind of companies to stop such kind of practices. And also it has various obligations, duties and responsibilities on the worker of a factory and also the factory manager. So it also laid down certain obligations for the company manager or the proprietors to maintain such kind of adequate safety and kind of minimum requirements that are supposed to be maintained for carrying out the factory related activities. And also amendments to the Act and core decisions have further extended the nature and scope of the concept of occupier, especially the hazardous processes in factories. So even the amendments also are being made to the Act depending upon the requirements mostly related to such hazardous processes or substances which are related to the hazardous kind of things. So regarding that, also many amendments were made for this particular act, and made this act which is more beneficial for the community of workers. Now, what are the duties of a factory manager? So first, the person who is in the company who is responsible for the kind of incidents that are happening in the company is the factory manager. So what are the duties that are to be performed by the factory manager is the right of workers to be warned about imminent danger. So means in case of any dangerous situations, dangerous places that the employees are supposed to work, they must be informed to the workers. So, as per the section 41H, it is the manager's duty to inform the workers about such kind of danger. And also the notice of periods of work for others. So, also they must notice the period of work for the adults, as what time to what time the adults must work, how much amount, how many hours of work that the workers are supposed to do it. Also one of the duty of the factory manager as per the section 61. And as per the section 62, the register of adult workers, when they have reported to the work, when they have left the work, this kind of register also to be maintained as per the section 62. Annual leave with base. Also, every worker must be paid an annual base. Annual leave must be maintained, must be given, and also that leave must be as a paid leave. So that is also included as a section 79. So as per this Act section 88A, there must be a notice of certain dangerous occurrences to the employees in case of kind of occurrences are made in the or incidents are happening in the companies. Notice of certain disease. So in case of any disease that has affected to any worker, it is the duty of the factory manager to understand what is the duty, what is the disease that has been affected by the workers, and what is the disease that has been affected by the worker, and make a notice about this particular thing. Safety and occupational health survey must also be conducted by the factory manager every time to time, and this is also by the section 91A. And also notice of certain incidents, like particular incidents which are related to the the factory workers, also must be notified by the factory manager as per the section 88. So this is what the particular Companies Act 1948, and if you conclude the topic, the present Factories Act in operation for about 37 years has provided ample benefits to the factory workers by this particular act, and it has considerably improved their working and employment conditions because they have provided safety provisions and health provisions and other minimum wage provisions and all. And the government is actively considering the introduction of some vital amendments to the act and to keep it up in tune time and make it more effective and for the benefit of the factory workers. Now let's have a small quiz on this particular topic. The first Factories Act was enacted in the year 1881. No adult worker shall be required or allowed to work in a factory for more than dash hours, 48 hours per week. The violation of Factories Act imposes fine which may be up to 1 lakh. As part of duties of factory manager, notice of certain dangerous occurrences is with respect to dash section. It is section 88E. That's what? Thank you very much for watching this video.